we have just done a couple of startup drafts, and there really was one glaring thing that stood out to us in these startup drafts.
One thing.
These 2025 rookie picks, they might be pretty cheap right now. In fact, they might be too cheap. In fact, they might be worth buying. Let me just display this data for you, and let me try to convince you why this class, people are sleeping on it pretty heavily at this point, or people are at least undervaluing the picks, and I personally don't think it's super warranted. Now let's talk about where these picks are actually going. You know, again, we've done these live league startups where we've had members of our community drafting live on our channel. It's been really fun. It's also given us a really good view into where people are actually valuing these rookie picks right now. And so looking at the 101, it's been going, you know, this is Ashton Genty. This is the one we really know, right? Mid-second. But then the 102 drops all the way to the mid-third, the 103 to the late-third, the 104, 105, and 106 going anywhere from the mid-4th to the mid-5th. The 107, the 108, the 109, all going at the 6-7 range. The 110 and beyond are going into the 7th and 8th round, mid and late 8th. Like, I mean, these picks, these are picks last year, and admittedly a better class last year. You're not gonna get a class as good as last year's this year. So I want to just get that out of the way now. But looking at where the picks are being drafted so far in our startup drafts, I was just sitting there thinking, you know, these picks might be a little bit undervalued. And let me prove to you that there actually might be a market to go buy some of these picks. At first, we were doing the videos like, hey, trade these picks for your players, trade these players for your picks. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm more on the side of trading for picks right now. Not to mention, the pick prices are gonna go up in 2 weeks because we have the combine, and every single year. Bloop. Why? Because Xavier Worthy ran a 4.21. Why? Because you had CJ Stroud and he looked fantastic, and Frank Reich was chuckling, and now Frank Reich doesn't have a job. It's every year.
Because some no-name person that everyone, and then you have these Twitter people that are like, oh no, I was on this person the entire time. The entire time. And then somehow it boosts the value of every single pick in the draft.
So, you know, again, they're gonna go up. This is the best time. We really never recommend buying picks at this point in the process. There's probably a market for it now. And again, we talked about where picks are going, but I looked at the bakery for this, and I haven't talked to you about this yet, so I want to get your kind of reaction in real time here. Okay. I looked at the bakery to try to judge, okay, how good is this class against every other class we've done, and I actually figured out a way to quantify it a little bit. What the bakery is an analytical model created by our own, Ryan Bread, which takes the running back, wide receiver, and tight end positions. It uses a variety of analytical factors and stats and things like that. He used linear regression to kind of come up with a model that can correctly predict which ones are going to be the best prospects compared to, given the draft capital, given the college statistics, given the breakout age, all the things that matter. And so it's available to all of you on flockfantasy.com/domain. In the Discord, you guys have known that and hopefully are using it at this point because it's very valuable. But what I decided to do was like, okay, I'm going to take the composite of the top 10 wide receiver bakery scores, the top 10 running back bakery scores, and the top 3 tight end scores, because these scores are standardized, right? Year over year, they're all graded on the exact same scale. And I'm like, I'm going to see if I can judge the strength of the class on these scores. And then when I did this, you know, it's so draft capital heavy, the bakery, because draft capital really is the number one, you know, most important thing in terms of correlation to hitting or not hitting. Draft capital is really the most important thing for a prospect in trying to predict how they're going to do in the NFL. I brought the draft capital grades down, and I did kind of a worst case scenario just to make sure I wasn't overhyping anything. And with that being said, again, the composite of the top 10 running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends and their scores kind of played out like this. And again, these are average, their averages added up. And so in 2023, you had 31.5 was the total. In 2024, you had 30.5. And again, don't be super surprised that 2024 is the worst of this class because
wide receivers and quarterbacks were not included in the composite score.
The wide receivers were, the quarterbacks were not.
Sorry, quarterbacks specifically.
Quarterbacks specifically. The reason 2024 was so good was because there were 6 quarterbacks in Superflex leagues that were pushing all of the elite wide receivers down.
6.
30.4 for 2024, 32.0 for 2025. That's the highest of the 3. Okay, you might say, okay, well, hold on. This class is not near as good as last year's, but let's look individually by position and look at how this year's class at least predicts right now, as it sits right now, how we predict it to stack up with these last 2 classes, because we all know what these last 2 classes have been like. The running back class, by a pretty fair margin, is first of the last 2 years. I mean, really, the last 2 years by a lot. It's really the best running back class. I didn't do it all the way back to 2017. I guarantee it would have been the highest since 2017, just based on where these guys are ranked overall. So it's the best running back class and again, last year's running back class was a 9.0 average for the top 10 running backs. This year's a 10.5. In the bakery, again, this is like you're talking about the bakery. Like, here's a reference point for you. These guys, the highest ever in terms of the running back score was 14.5. And, really you get down in here and the lowest is like, the worst of the worst are in the twos. So it's like, really, when you're talking about a 1.5 average jump across the board in the bakery for this class, that is ridiculous. That is a very, very strong running back class. And we know this, but again, we're taking this class and we're kind of throwing it out the window because it's not last year's class. But here's the thing. Last year's class is not the standard. Last year's class is what I think will be one of the best Dynasty rookie classes in the past 10 years and the next 10 years. It was a special class. But we can't adjust our expectation and expect every class to be like that. And so running back, again, grades out to be the best. The wide receiver class, the Bakeries does its job. Again, the Bakery is accurate. Last year's wide receiver class, by a pretty decent margin, was the first wide receiver class. This year's wide receiver class is second. 2023's wide receiver class is third, okay? And again, it's 10.7, 10.4, 10.3. So some pretty good gaps between 2024 and 2025, but then the gap between 25 and 24 or 23, it's 0.1 points. So it's, pretty comparable as a wide receiver class to 2023 at least. Yep. And then tight end. This year's tight end class is, again, you're looking at 2023. 2024 is actually the worst because you had Bowers. And then analytically, I mean, you didn't really have anybody else after. You had Bowers and then Sinnott, JT Sanders, Eric Hall. 2023, you had Laporta, Kincaid, Michael Mayer. Okay, and so 2025, Warren, Loveland, Fannin grades out higher than that. And so you're looking at the tight end class. In my opinion, it's the best tight end class in the last 3 years. It's definitely the best running back class in the last 3 years. And the wide receiver class, while it's not as strong as last year, I think it's just as strong, if not stronger, than 2023. You've got multiple guys here from a wide receiver standpoint I think you're going to get a couple guys with first-round draft capital here, even in a year where it's a little bit weaker. Yeah, Ted McMillan, Luther Burden, Mike Egbuka, and Travis Hunter.
3.5 guys right there that are guaranteed to go into the first round. Right. The half being Travis Hunter. And then you always see another guy sneak into the first round generally once you get to the combine, see who tests out really well. Typically, you're going to see someone else get into that range. That could be Jaden Higgins. That could be Ellick. That could be Trey Harris. We don't really know yet. Right. But I'll tell you what, dude. Number one, I love seeing those numbers because, again, you didn't tell me about them before. Number two, that also doesn't ultra surprise me because that was right in line with what I was going to say, in that last year we were spoiled with wide receivers, but not only wide receivers, just the high-end ones that ended up actually really living up to the hype their rookie year. I mean, some of those bottom guys, they didn't all hit, though. Not all the first-round wide receivers hit. Well, you had guys like Pearsall and Leggett, who the Bakery was not kind to even with first-round draft capital. Keon Coleman, who's still a wild card. A.D. Mitchell, who was a big-time faller. And then Xavier Worthy, who took quite a while to really come into his own, and he still isn't valued ultra high at the moment. I mean, the quarterbacks were just a bonus at that point. You're never going to... I think the biggest outlier of last year's class was the fact that we had 6 quarterbacks going in the top 12 picks in the NFL draft. We're not going to see that again. But again, with all of these running backs that we're going to start talking about, because we're going to put names to some of these picks. We're going to put names and we're going to put historical comps to some of these picks, some of these prospects that are going in the 25 class to really give you a good idea of what types of talents are actually going to be going in the first round alone of the 25 class, starting with the 101. Ashton Jeanty, we've already said this before. We're not going to spend forever on it. Saquon Barkley and Bijan Robinson.
These are Bakery score comps.
Bakery score comps. Okay, this is purely analytics. Now, I don't think you have to go much further than analytics. You don't have to watch much film with Ashton Jeanty to realize that the Saquon and Bijan comps are absolutely merited. 100%. They absolutely are. 102.
Ted McMillan, A.J. Brown, and Drake London. We talked about this. He's in that second tier with like a 90% hit rate or higher.
And now think about this too, because you're like, oh, well, A.J. Brown, yeah, you can say A.J. Brown now at the NFL is valued so high. What about when he was, coming out of college, going into the NFL? Where was he drafted then? Okay, well, what about Drake London, who was in that same range? Drake London was the consensus 102. He was a top 12 pick and he was a top 10 pick going to the Atlanta Falcons in a terrible situation. And he was still consensus 102 in a class that had Breece Hall as the 101. That ended up being a pretty solid class at the running back and the wide receiver position. 103, Luther Burden. You've got Devonta Smith and Brian Thomas Jr. Brian Thomas Jr. obviously fell further than he should have in last year's class. That was because, again, how top heavy that wide receiver class was. There were 3 other wide receivers that went well above Brian Thomas in the NFL draft, and all those quarterbacks that pushed Brian Thomas down. And any normal non-first round 6 quarterback class, you would have seen Brian Thomas going easily in the top 4 to 5 picks.
Yeah.
104.
Cam Ward, and I don't have bakery comps for Cam Ward because we don't have bakery data for quarterback. But Cam Ward is a quarterback that's going to go first or second overall, probably second or third overall, actually. Yeah. And he's going to be a top 12 pick in Dynasty Superflex. And he should be. He should be a top 6 pick, easily, locked in. And so you definitely include him in this list. And again, I mentioned we don't have the bakery for quarterbacks, but we do have it for running backs, tight ends, wide receivers. You can get access to the bakery, flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain, annual Motherflocker tier. It's going to get you full access to the bakery, get you a free team blueprint. We're going to review your Dynasty team personally. Nathan and I do every single one of these blueprints. Never has anyone ever done a blueprint besides us. We're going to look at your team, give you your 3 outlook, give you your team archetype, tell you which maybe rookies you should be targeting in your drafts as well. You also get the trade calculator, you get the rookie draft guide, all of this, flockfantasy.com/domain. We can tell you what to do with your rookie picks, or we can at least give you some advice on that. Make sure you use code domain, links in the comment in the description. But again, Cam Ward is going to be that guy. Number 5.
Omarion Hampton. Again, draft capital pending. We'll see where he ends up going. 2nd round, 1st round, it doesn't matter. Regardless, he is in the with a bunch of running backs that hit, like Christian McCaffrey and Breece Hall, who are right there with him. I mean, he is back-to-back with those guys.
You've got Caleb Johnson. And again, talking about the strength of this running back class, and this is not rankings. These are the 12 guys, or really 14 guys, that we feel safe are going to get the draft capital to where they're going to be safe picks at price in Dynasty. Caleb Johnson, again,
it's not like we're throwing the Trey Harris's in here.
No, these are the guys we're pretty sure about. Caleb Johnson, he's likely in the same tier as JT and Jahmyr Gibbs. People are sleeping on Caleb. People are straight up sleeping on him.
Yep.
He's that good. And again, the bakery supports it. But Caleb Johnson, somebody's going to go top 12, number 7.
I think Henderson is one of the most guaranteed going to get
Absolutely.
really solid draft capital, and I don't think he's going to move when it comes to his comps. And Joe Mixon and Kenneth Walker just had to pick a few of those guys in the range of Travion Henderson because so many of them were so freaking good. Like, literally, let me go out of my way to tell you who was going in that range right by Travion Henderson. You've got Omar Hampton, ironically, who's right there. Josh Jacobs, Jonathan Brooks, which is ironic because Jonathan Brooks, you never got to see him play, but he was a good prospect as well. J.K. Dobbins, who, remember how highly valued he was before the injury stuff. Yeah. Christian McCaffrey, Javonte Williams. This was first-round pick Javonte Williams in Dynasty multiple years ago. Dalvin Cook, Breece Hall, Leonard Fournette, Mixon, Kenneth Walker. From a value upside perspective, heading into being a rookie and heading into their second, none of these guys missed. Rashad Penny had value for years and years and years and years. He was highly, highly valued as a first-round pick way back in the day.
And we're already at number 8 here. And we talk about Emeka Egbuka, Jerry Jeudy, and Jordan Addison are bakery score comps. Those are both guys, Jerry Jeudy and Jordan Addison, who were late first in their draft class, like mid to late first, right? And so it's right where we should be. So far, we are right where we should be. Number 9.
Travis Hunter, who I understand, he's a wild card. I understand the news about him, testing as a corner at the combine. That's absolutely concerning and something that we're going to have to monitor. We'll see where he actually ends up being drafted once all is said and done. But again, Zay Flowers and Michael Pittman, analytically as a true wide receiver, Zay Flowers and Michael Pittman is right in the range where he's currently being graded, which for a guy, again, that's kind of baking into his price the fact that he's probably going to have limited snap opportunity at the offensive side of the ball. I'm totally okay taking the shot there with a talent like Travis Hunter.
And again, this is worse. Like, even if Travis Hunter is number 14 on this list, okay, fine. But Tyler Warren at number 10, this is a huge one. Like, for people who have late first and who need tight ends, I'm like, actually, you can stay put. You're going to get a really good tight end prospect this year. Tyler Warren's bakery grade is next to Sam Laporta and next to Trey McBride in that tier of guys. This is a very good tight end class, and really, the tight ends are kind of what saved this class from being a pretty top-heavy class only to where you can actually get through the first round, like the point we're making right now, and feel pretty good about. I mean, like, look, again, the 110 this year right now is going in like the mid-7th round. Will I take a shot on a rookie with first-round draft capital, tight end? Absolutely, I will. 100%. 100% I will. And again, a lot of these running backs that we're going to be talking about here later are going to be going here or lower. And most of the proven running backs that are going in startup drafts in these same ranges, 8th, 9th round, you'd much rather take a shot on these guys. So Tyler Warren, again, and the guy right behind him.
Yeah, Colson Loveland. I mean, again, a lot of the reason that we're so excited about this class is because of how much the tight end values and the tight end talent is really, helping you get so much value in the first round. Colson Loveland is right by George Kittle and David Njoku. I also wanted to mention that he is right by Noah Fant and O.J. Howard as well, which is absolutely notable. Dalton Kincaid in that range too. Every single one of those guys is notable because they were all first-round tight end picks, and even though they didn't pan out to the level that you expected them to, it didn't matter for their value for the first 2 to 3 years of their journey in the NFL. Their value was maintained, and they were. I mean, Noah Fant had value for 5 years before, he kind of decided to plummet because his draft capital was so good. These are the types of levels of prospects of guys that you've got Loveland going around.
And at the 12 here, at the 112. We put Shedeur Sanders. This is being extremely conservative. Shedeur Sanders could easily go higher than this in Superflex leagues. But you're telling me, like,
spoiler, we're not even talking about Jackson Dart in this list.
No. Again, these are only the guys we feel pretty good about right now. And Shedeur Sanders, like, if I sit at the 112 and I get Shedeur, like, if he gets top 5, okay, like, fine, I'll take that pick. It's a safe pick, and it's the 8th round in Dynasty startups. But then 13 and 14, Quinshon Judkins, who's being, next to DeAndre Swift, next to Devon Achane analytically. And then Harold Fannin Jr., who is right there in the same tier as Loveland and Warren. Nobody's talking about Harold Fannin. He should be somebody that everybody's talking about. He's going to be a good pick in rookie drafts. You could take him early second or even late first. Mark Andrews and Kincaid, depending on what his draft capital is, depending on where he lands from a situational standpoint. And again, this list doesn't include two things here, two really important things. It doesn't include any quarterbacks that could sneak up. There's usually one. It could be Jackson Dart this year.
Yep.
Who knows? There's some other names that are getting some hype right now too, but it doesn't include those guys because, again, these are the only guys we're pretty sure about. This is the big one for this class especially. This doesn't even include really day 3 running backs that could get pushed up because of landing spot. Okay, which day 3 running backs could I be referring to? Anything past Judkins here. Devin Neal,
Scattaboo, Jordan James, Dylan Sampson, who none of these guys have tested at the combine. They're all wild cards, but if any of those guys have really good days, some of them will go day 2.
100%.
Some of them will. And again, I don't care if it's second round, I don't care if it's third round. People are going to be all over that in the late first and the early second.
Hypothetically, what do you think would happen if the Chargers took Cam Scattaboo? Where do you think people would pick him? I'm not saying it's warranted, but I know exactly what's going to happen because I've been playing Dynasty for y'all with y'all for a long time. I know exactly what would happen.
Yeah, and again, guys, I think it's important to tell you, reinforce why we just spent 10 minutes going into detail about the bakery comps for every single projected player going in the first round of this class. When almost the entire Dynasty community is telling you to sell these picks or down tier from these picks or to move off these picks for certain players, you're probably going to want to Zach. You're probably going to want to keep your head above the waves. You're probably going to want to do the opposite when everyone else is trying to do something else, because that pretty much automatically means that you're going to get some of these picks at a discount. It basically does. The only pick that people currently have interest right now, like significant interest, is the 101. Avery said it last video. If you have the 102 right now, congratulations, you suck. We're telling you, congratulations, you have the 102, you don't suck, because you're getting Ted McMillan, who has some of the best wide receiver comps that you could ask for in most normal classes that don't include Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors. Like, this is good. This is very, very good. This is not a subpar class. This is a 2023 class,
right,
in my opinion.
I mean, which was not a bad class in hindsight. And so again,
no, it was a great class.
To wrap this up, to give you some, hey, go do this thing. Here's the thing that we think that you should do. I think there's a market to trade for picks right now. I think this is the last chance to do it. I think you can get them.
This is a big deal that we're saying this, because we're the guys we're the guys that like winning championships, winning money, and going and getting proven players that are going to score points so that you can win your league and win money, because money's cool. This is how you can play the market right now. This is one of the best ways you can play the market right now.
And every year, even though there are people who had just started watching us this year, or maybe only watched us 2 years. Last year we had people be like, "Oh, you guys just have rookie fever. Miss me with that." Okay, we are
the biggest anti-rookie fever people of all time. Certified.
People get way too excited about this stuff, but again, it's less of people always get excited, and it's more people always think the same about this stuff.
Yep.
And right now, again, we haven't used this in a while, but when they zig, we zag, and we're gonna zag in this case, right? So the 101, we're not really targeting the 101. It's the one pick that you know which player is going to go there. You know what's going to happen with that pick. Yeah. We're not really targeting it. But the 102, I mean, again, this is based on real money startup drafts we just did. These are the guys going around the 102.
Yeah, Saquon Barkley's going around there, and A.J. Brown, the two Eagles guys. Avery's a little bit on the fence with A.J. Brown. I am of the opinion, again, if you can move A.J. Brown for the 102, which I don't even think is possible right now. I think the conversation is more the 103 or the 104. If you can get the 102, I'm absolutely capitalizing on that opportunity, because when Ted McMillan gets top 10 draft capital, everyone's going to be all over that situation, all over that, whatever landing spot it ends up being, and the overall talent that Ted McMillan is and where he's going to grade because of that draft capital. Saquon Barkley, again, no one's really going to fight us on the Saquon Barkley thing, I think, specifically because he's at his value ceiling right now. You're only investing in him if you're a heavy contender, and you know that he's only going to slowly decrease in value over the next couple of years, even if he is the RB1 for the next 2 years. T. Higgins, Breece Hall, also in that range, Trevor Lawrence as well. Those guys are more like the 103-ish range. If you can move any of those guys for the 103, which is possible, we have seen it happen before because people are such a downer on this class after those first two picks. I think that's absolutely something that you want to be looking at.
The 104 through 106, again, these are typically going like late 4th to the 5th is where we've seen these. And again, two real money startups, like, so they're actual value. Going next to guys like Baker Mayfield, Michael Penix, James Cook. I'll tell you this about James Cook. You're going to get a better running back here. Hands down, straight up, no question.
You're
going to get a better running back. You will. And Baker and Penix, like, look, worst case scenario with those guys, you get Cam Ward.
You're going to be getting Henderson in that range.
You absolutely are going to be getting, I mean, you're going to be getting better than that, my opinion. You might get Luther Burden. I'm willing to move all those guys for for those picks right now. Again, aiming as high as and aiming for first, the 104 more than anything. But again, I just would prefer the picks there over these players with limited upside, the next range.
Yeah, then the 107 through the 109, you've got guys like Walker and Jameson Williams who are kind of boom bust. Walker obviously has the injury struggles and has been injured for the last 3 years, it feels like. He can't stay healthy. I would rather take a mid to late shot on a running back in this class by far. You have Jameson Williams. I mean, Kenneth Walker was going in this. He was going a little earlier than that because that was actually not a great class in 2022. Yes. But Jameson Williams, again, a perennial wide receiver 2 in his offense. He's got a lot of opportunity to compete with there with Jahmyr Gibbs, with Monty, with Laporta, with Amon-Ra St. Brown. I understand he doesn't play the same role. They can take away from him just like he took away from them this season with Ben Johnson being out of that offense now. And then Bryce Young, again, a quarterback in a super flex league that is, he just has a cap ceiling and we know it. And that's a guy that even if he does have another good year and is able to build off of what he did at the end of the 2024 season, I think he's a guy that has a very cap ceiling and is only going to be able to get so high until he's just going to fall back down again. So
I think so too. And then the late first, like, again, these are guys going before some of these picks in startups. Keon Coleman, Khalil Shakir, Jerry Jeudy, and Cortland Sutton. You can say that's not happening. Nobody's trading those players for first.
Okay.
I'm looking into your soul right now, telling you we just did startups in our community.
We just did this.
And we saw these guys going around these picks. It's happening. People are way undervaluing the 110 through the 112 right now.
We legit, like, I don't know if you can pull this from the live stream, Sherry. We were losing our minds watching the 103 fall to the 4th round.
Yes.
Losing our minds.
Yes.
It was crazy.
It's time to find our minds. It's time to be trading for picks. Let's do it. Nice. Let's not underestimate this class. And again, let's get some value wins. It's all about value for us. We tell you this. Let's get some value wins going into the draft. These picks are going to go up, in my opinion, each about a round in value before the draft. I think you're going to get a round in value. Yes. And again, it's a take. We're not always right about that. We don't have 100%. We could be wrong about this. But it's a shot called. We're calling our shot. Make sure you drop a like in the video. Make sure you subscribe if you enjoyed the discussion about picks, if you enjoyed the video, and if you play Dynasty. We play Dynasty actually too, so it kind of works out that you're watching. But flockfantasy.com/domain. Use code domain. We'll look at your team. We'll tell you what you should be potentially doing with your rookie picks. You can get our rookie draft guide as well, but we'll also just give you a plan for your team and how should you approach rookie picks philosophically based on your team archetype, which again we give you. You'll also get infinite blueprint, which is an update on that blueprint every single month. So annual Motherflocker to your flockfantasy.com/domain. Like I said, make sure you use code domain when you sign up. But we appreciate you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you later.